Alright, we had another one of those little one-point swings, Confederate advantage. They moved their natives again, pulled in troops down in Tennessee. The Union chose to actually pull some reinforcements into Washington instead of going on a raid effect. I'll do the raid at some point, I'm sure, because I just can't resist playing with those far west command points. But now we have actually an interesting amount. The Union outrolled the Confederates by 2 points. Now 2 points is where you can start doing things. So I mark this with the 2, I put the flag on top so that I have a moving counter, and now I get something. But here's where you kind of have the, oh wow, there are so many things I can do, but not really too many. 3 points is sort of that's what you need to move an actual force generally. But I do have Lion here. Now Lion, I'm going to peek here because I know the initial setup. Lion's facing an equal-sized force under Price. To me that seems like a good idea. Now, first though, I get to use my bonus action, not command point or anything. So I want to bring some reinforcements somewhere, of some sort. Right now I have the lousy McDowell sitting here in Washington. I brought in more reinforcements for him. Where else would I want to bring anyone in? I don't know. Really tough call as to what you ever want to do in this game. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a leader for Washington, D.C. And here, well, pull a 10-sider out because I don't want to go fishing for an 8-sider. Essentially, I'm just going to roll for which leader shows up, and I pay the price for not getting an 8-sider, and I get Curtis. Now, Curtis isn't a great choice here because he's only got 1 star. This is where he ends up. He can't command 6 troops, which is what I want to do to go do my Battle of Bull Run. But I don't want to do it with McDowell, because he's lousy. Now I got my 2 points, and I'm going to spend 2 Trans-Mississippi command points, but I can't launch an attack right off. This is the problem. I need supplies. Now, if I look here, I mean, I could, but you don't want to attack out of supply. I'm allowed to build a depot for 2. So that's what I'm going to do. My hope is to get another 2-pointer and get the advantage on Price. We're both going to be equal sized there. So that's the Union use of 2 points. Now what about the Confederates? I don't know. Let me think a little bit, I'll come back. Alright, I pretty much knew what I wanted to do. I'm going to spend 2 Eastern command points to give Beauregard the Army of Northern Virginia and form this army. And I fish the counters out of there. I pull this out. I put it there. He could do this because he's in supply. And the reason I want to do this is so that I can start putting reinforcements and such not on there, because seriously, the Union can come crossing across and do some damage to me there. Now I had 4 strength points, so I put that here and record the army that way. And I had to spend 2 Eastern command points to do that, which means, you know, unless I get a doubles where both people play the same, get the same roll, chances are I'm not going to see a whole lot happening on this turn. Whether or not I can get a bull run type situation going, I don't know. It's really a matter of, there are a lot of points to spend, but there are a lot more things to do to set up than there are points. Okay, well, I got lucky here. Another Union 2-point command coming into play. I took a reinforcement leader, another one in Washington, hoping to get someone better. Instead, I got someone worse. I got Don Carlos Buell, who is, well, he's only worse with armies. But he's a pretty bad choice to have in the game. Yeah. Honestly, there aren't a lot of good choices in here, so I don't know why I'm drawing, but someone like Rosecrans would help me, or Pope. So I'm kind of drawing, hoping to get one of them. Okay, so now for the Union, I'm going to spend my Trans-Mississippi. I can't pull Trans-Mississippi reinforcements here in Springfield because I don't own Missouri yet. I do have the special ability to pull them into St. Louis, but that's not terribly helpful. Fremont is not the most effective commander in the game by a lot. Okay, so now I have only one Trans-Mississippi point, but I'm going to spend a discretionary point, and I'm going to activate Lions. I've got supply now, so I march in. There's no ability to withdraw from combat. There is for Cav alone, or armies have kind of their ability to, if they're at a distance, to keep that distance, but that's not what's happening here. So let's take a look at the battle. It's a 1-to-1 fight, which means we're going to be on the 0 table. Now we could look that up over here. 1-to-1 is E. Yeah, you never use this. And E is the 0. We're both going to be rolling a die. And the Union gets to add 2 because Lions is a good general. See what we got. These are both small forces. They're only 1 strength point. So Lions rolls a 7, and he is the attacker, which means he's doing it to the defender, I believe. Yeah, you can see the effects go down here. So he rolls a 7. That's going to be a D, and the Confederate rolls a 6. That's going to be a D. Both sides are demoralized. This is not what the Union wanted. They wanted to win the battle, but both sides are demoralized. We got to make leader loss checks. Do them both together. And I think they're both 1-star generals. A 12 doesn't do anything. A 6 doesn't do anything. What that means is now I fish out the 2-star leaders for Lion, and good old Pap's Price. If I can find him in here. There he is. And they will go into the leader pool for next turn. These aren't reinforcements or replacement, they're promotions in place. And now the Union has to withdraw. And this kind of handcuffed the Confederates more. They spent a lot on command points in the Trans-Mississippi, but their 6 points is only enough to really refresh him. Shit. I'm dripping sweat. To refresh him, or and then make an attack. Now that may just be enough. The Union only has 1 discretionary point, so they cannot rally their demoralized force. Being demoralized means they're not going to get any die roll bonuses, among other things. So that kind of went poorly for Lion, and Price actually has an opportunity there, but it required the fact that the Confederates were willing to commit to the Trans-Mississippi. If they don't commit all out to the Trans-Mississippi on the first turn, usually as their first priority, usually they're going to get knocked out of here. It does provide a thorn in the Union side otherwise. Probably would have been a better idea not to attack with Lion. I don't know. I'm an aggressive kind of person when I play this game, and that kind of gets me in trouble. 2 points is not terribly useful for the Confederates. They don't have any leaders who have a 2-point initiative right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 2 Western CPs, and this is really all I want it to do in the West anyway. And I'm going to create the Army of Tennessee in Nashville. It's only got 3 strength points, but that's okay. It'll grow over time, and we'll put that there. That's less important than creating the Northern Virginia Army because I got a few turns to do it. Maybe I should have built fortifications at Memphis instead. It's always hard for me to be that defensive, although the solid South strategy kind of demands that you get your fortresses up as quickly as possible. The next pulse was another 2-pointer, and these are getting kind of annoying. Neither side can really do what they want. The Union would love if they had 2 command points they could spend here, because then they could rally that force, but they can't. Option would have been building the army. Instead, what they did was they pulled another leader for their freebie, and they actually got somebody they want, Pope. He's not a bad general, and he can lead the 6 strength points. I could use him to march through and make an attack maybe against Johnston up here and try to leverage the advantage that the split of the Confederates kind of provides right now. Of course, I have to watch out because some of the troops would come from Washington. I'd be crossing the river, which would be painful, and Beauregard's got his reactive capabilities with an army that makes him a real threat in a way other things aren't. Anyway, the Union spent their other points, their 2 actual command points, to use their naval points. Just, they have to use something, and burning the naval command seems like a reasonable choice at this point. You can't just burn, well, you can just burn command points for no purpose, but getting those boats on the board doesn't really help much, but it doesn't hurt much. For the Confederates, they actually used their 2 points all on replacement, reinforcement type actions. They pulled, they got Braxton Bragg there. That isn't very helpful, and they took a reinforcement infantry. But there are times in this game where you just can't do anything because essentially the command points that you roll for don't give you what you really want to do, and then it becomes, okay, where can I delay? And now we got a biggie. Confederates got 11, Union got 6, 5-point swing. Confederates get a freebie. They're going to spend their freebie here in to bring the reinforcement in Fayetteville. That comes off the track. Now they're going to spend 3 to rally Price. And they're going to spend 1 command point. Can they? Oh, man. They got 4. Yeah, they can. They're going to spend 1 Trans-Mississippi command point. Price is no longer demoralized. To pull an infantry up and join Price. So now he has 2-to-1 odds. He is not demoralized. And the Union doesn't have the points to do anything. The Union has 1 discretionary command point, and that's it. And that they could use in the Trans-Mississippi. That's not enough to help them, and now Price has the advantage down here and might be able to actually start gaining some ground in Missouri. The Confederates spent their last point bringing in, I think, another reinforcement to Northern Virginia. They brought something on board. Now I'm on the Union, and I had to think real hard. What do I want to do with the Union? This is their first chance to really do something kind of big. Well, it's their first 3-point activation, and it's actually a 5-pointer. Kind of a pity there, but for one thing, I look to West Virginia. I want to use 1 Eastern command point to go grab Charleston. Once I do that, this will convert at the end of the turn. I don't really need to move McClellan. He's fine where he is. It's maybe not the best place in the world for him to be. The Confederates can't move up here, I don't believe, because that's a Union-controlled hex, perhaps. I'm not sure. I may want to move a Union garrison there to prevent the Confederates from marching up. It's a neutral hex, which I think they are allowed to enter. And the Confederates have kind of been not paying attention down there. Neither side really has. Sometimes it takes me a while to kind of get used to things, and then I make a lot of mistakes in the East. The Union has Pope here. They could launch the attack I was talking about, and it wouldn't be a terrible attack. They'd have 6 strength points. I think Johnston starts out with like 2 or 3. We can peek. I haven't added to it. He starts out with 2. So I'd have fairly good odds. I'd have shift against me for the river, but that's about it. But then I'd leave Washington with only a couple of strength points. Of course, I could pump some more in. But my feeling there is the most important thing is before I do anything, I want to make sure I get Washington as a fortress. And that spends my 3 CPs. Whatever I gain in the East is going to be so minimal with the leaders I have. One of the biggest things I might get is promotions. But promoting Pope isn't that great. He ends up about as bad as McDowell and everything as an army commander, so I'm not really terribly concerned about that. I did have some desires of moving Butler. He's got better odds than Magruder or whoever's holding him off there. But in order to do that, I was thinking about shipping a ground unit into place. I can't move a strength point twice under 2 pulses, so I can't sea move it into place and then land move it. So I'd have to wait until another activation. So I'm going to spend the 3 points on building that fortress. Now I have 2 more, and that's a little troubling. Just not sure what to do with them. I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to pump more troops into Washington. That way I'll have both the troops and the fortress there. So if I decide to activate, I can take a reasonable sized little force out of there. I don't know how necessary that is, but I feel like I want that Pope move. I want Pope moving there. And now we slide back down. Okay, the Union got the next activation. I got a little Confederate flag here for some reason. No, I cheated. Confederates got the next activation. I'm sorry. I did that right. They took their freebie over here in Virginia, and actually they took another reinforcement in the Army of Northern Virginia, and they moved this unit through neutral territory to grab Grafton, West Virginia. That takes a victory point from the U.S., or from the Union, and adds 1 to the Confederacy. More importantly, though, it makes it incumbent on the Union player to use McClellan to attack Grafton. It was a mistake to leave West Virginia not pacified. I'll make lots of mistakes throughout the game. But early on, I'm more likely to make them because I forget key factors. That's kind of cool because the generals on both sides made more mistakes strategically early in the war. It takes a while to get used to this one. They're usually not devastating. It's not like another Victory Games game where if you make mistakes, that would be the Korean War up there. If you make mistakes, it's very, very bad. And why is Vietnam in... Wow, that's interesting. My ordering seems wrong. Okay, so now it's the Union's phase, and they have 2 points to spend. Well, they could, of course, spend 1 to run down and take Charleston. That's not too important at this point. They really need... They really need their 3 points. They only have 2 command points there and the discretionary to either activate McClellan or maybe send Pope on his possible attack. I only have 2 action points though, so I can't use a 3 command point activation. This is where things get kind of troublesome, really. I'm going to spend an activation to pull a leader for Cairo. I would like to get somebody there. My second activation I'm going to use in the far west. I have a far west command point. So I randomize a leader for Cairo. And I get to peek, but they don't. Oh, I got Rosecrans. He's pretty decent. He sucks as an army commander is the only problem. Okay, but now I have this other one, and this is why I wanted to really zoom in, was I'm going to make a march. Now these guys have 6 movement points towards Fort Chadbourne and try to burn it down. I move 1. Now, once I get within 3 hexes of a settlement, and I don't remember if there's a table for that. I don't think there is. Once I get within 3 hexes, there's a chance of that thing alerting, which will affect the Indian raid table. I'll have to look up what the effect is. I think it's a -1 on it or something. Okay, if there's a Texas Ranger, it can try to intercept, and if it's attacked, 1 is subtracted if there's an alert marker, yeah. So you kind of don't want to hit things with an alert marker on them. I'll make a quick roll. Here I need a 1, and as I get closer, that'll get worse. Eventually, at 1 hex away, it's on a 1 through 3. I do not, so that's my second movement point there. Now I need a 1 or a 2. Third movement point, 1 through 3, but I gotta check this guy too. I'll check this one first. He's fine. This one could. No alert there either. Now I get to go in. That's my fourth movement point. The Confederates get to raid that. This is a Comanche coming in there. And you can see a lot of die rolls for this, but Indian effects don't happen very much. There aren't a lot of far west points. I get a 4. That's a massacre. The fort is destroyed. We put a ruin there, and we look at the massacre table. First thing we got to do is put smoking remains there. Now this is going to be worth a couple of victory points. I got to look. I think it's worth 2. I've been rolling the white dice for the Confederates and the red for the Union. That's what's wrong here. Okay. And we get a 1. This is a massacre, return, change sides. Which means these Comanches go back to their setup hex, which was here, but they become Confederate allied Comanches now. Now that's not terribly useful, except that it took them out of being a real danger. The Union can't pull them back on the board at all easily. I can send them back up into Kansas to attack, but I probably won't do that. I'll probably be using my Kiowa up there. So that's kind of a way of pacifying the natives, is to get them on your side in the battle. Let me briefly look up the victory points. I believe it's 2 points for that. Now 1 point for every 2 enemy cities or stockades, plus the victory point value of any there. It still ends up adding up to a decent amount of victory points that you can get using Union raiding Indians on the Confederate within Texas especially. And just to clarify something, these guys aren't guaranteed to be Confederate, so the Confederates could get all the Indians and not use them and protect Texas that way. Well, the Union can spend far west command points to try to convert them back over. They need a 5 or a 6 for that to work. I think we've got a lot more turn still left. Yeah, Confederate CPs are kind of low, but there's a decent number on the Union. So I'm going to load this one up, and we'll break this into 3 different videos for this turn. Most turns I think we'll do in 1 video. We may even be able to do broader strokes, because there isn't a lot going on in the game. I'm just trying to spell out a lot on these on the first turn here.